Well, hello everybody. It's Joel Clark, creator of Lone Wolf Fist here. Let me see? I made this. That's mine. A wonderful, hefty, blunt object of a game. I also got my copy of Exalted First set up here. One of these days I might go and design a version of that works in my system. We shall see. I'm still not really sure conceptually how to make something like Solars work in a game like mine, but I digress. Today we've got lots of goodies for you. For those of you using Foundry as a virtual tabletop, guess what happened today? That's right, if you were a patron or just a part of my Discord, then you got all the resources necessary to put together and run Lone Wolf Fist over Foundry. There's all kinds of really useful stuff on there for Foundry GMs, including character sheets and dice rollers and like all the different techniques. It's all programmed in there. Mr. El Gabo, the guy who designed it for his home use, cleaned it up at my behest and for the exchange of a very small, embarrassing amount of payment towards the wonderful man. And so now we have complete Foundry accessibility. I've never used Foundry, but I downloaded it here this last week because it seemed like the wave of the future. And I got to tell you, I'm already really happy with it. I'm excited to get to running games a little more regularly. Electronically, I might wind up making that a thing I do so regularly that it becomes a patron thing. Who knows? But yeah, so a new way of running and playing and connecting with other Fist enthusiasts online just dropped. So enjoy that. You have that today. As of today, you also have the complete hex crawl for Demon's Wake, which is the northwestern desert part of Brutal Transcendence, the big hex crawl map that we've been working on. So I uploaded that just now. You have access to that as well. So lots of really cool stuff today. Lots of exciting news. Recently, this last month or so, I hired Taylor Lane to help me with designing some stuff for Acid and Steel. Because one of the reasons I got into making this hex crawl is because I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to test in like a robust like play environment for Acid and Steel. I've got a lot of stuff where like characters are turning into landscape and all these really powerful demons I want to try to fight. So it's like, okay, I've got to do something where I can test this in real game conditions. And so Brutal Transcendence came out of that. I was making a home hex crawl, and then I was putting so much work into it. It was getting so big and so cool. I was like, you know what? I could sell this. I could make this into something everybody could use. And so that's where Brutal Transcendence came. So I kind of derailed Acid and Steel a little bit, but the main purpose of Brutal Transcendence was to give me a testing playground for ideas that were going to get developed in a lot more depth than Acid and Steel. One of those ideas was being able to investigate and adventure in this huge Blam-esque, like, mechanical world of Babel Keminar. My answer to Autochthonia from Exalted. And if you've ever played in Autochthonia and Exalted, you'll know a couple of things about it. Remember, it's this giant industrial, completely internal nightmarescape of, like, giant pistons and gears and arcs of electricity and all kinds of cool stuff. This nifty robotic intro world. We have endoskeletons and exoskeletons. This is an Indo world. We have an exo world where we live on the surface of a world. This is an Indo world where you're crawling through the guts of this chthonic mechanical universe. Really cool stuff. And so I wanted to do that in Lone Wolf Fist, and I had no idea how to go about it. So this hex crawl has helped clarify my thinking on it. And I was talking to Taylor Lane, who is a very prolific designer, by the way, in like the OSR-esque and OSR-adjacent stuff. And so we have a lot of design philosophy in common, and we happen to be pals. We talk and hang out and such like. And they were really excited about what I've been doing for all of the stuff in Lone Wolf Fist, and they're like, hey, can I be a part of this? And I was like, yeah, like, because I'm kind of realizing that I need help to realize the enormity of some of these goals. I did Lone Wolf Fists all by my lonesome, right, with very little help from other people, and it wound up being a much deeper, harder project than I thought it was going to be. It took a lot more time than it strictly needed to because I never made an RPG before, and I wasn't sure how to cooperate with people in a way that worked, and I wasn't sure how to ask them for stuff and design. I wasn't certain about my own design, but I got through it. So I've got really clear ideas about what I want goal-wise and what I want the different stuff to look like. And I've also kind of learned how to trust other people with elements of this game that I'm uncertain of. So I gave that to Taylor, and I gave them a little bit of money. Again, I underpay everybody. But I underpaid them, and they were thrilled because Taylor's a really cool person in general. And they turned in some dizzyingly fast and really deep and interesting design stuff. So deep, in fact, that it was beyond what I had sounded conceptually for making Bab el Kiminar. And I actually had to tell them to slow down because of how far they were outpacing my even early conceptions of that universe. So it's really exciting stuff. I'm not going to share that stuff yet because I've not gotten back to have a chance to sit down and revisit it and think about it in terms of like, well, what am I doing design-wise with the steel part of Acid and Steel? I've already got a pretty good idea of what I'm doing with the Acid stuff, with all the demon stuff, right? I've got some pretty clear ideas there. But with the robot stuff, I've only got really early concept work still. I haven't got back to develop it. So I want to go and sink my teeth into that a little deeper and develop it, and then like look into that next stage, which is, okay, where's the lore aspect of this? Where's the stuff that GMs are going to use to make their own campaigns? I've got a pretty good idea for that when it comes to, again, to the demonic part of it, because with all the demons and the demon kings, the Ashura, whenever they get to a certain level of power, they become the terrain. They turn into cities, they turn into oceans, they turn into mountains. You know, they turn into the places that you adventure through. And so the mechanism of increasing their power to the level that they turn into that terrain and using the mechanism of that terrain expanding to create setting, I've kind of programmed in a broad sense. Now, I need to add a little more detail and a little more, what's a good term here? A little more for personality to that. So it's not just, because right now it's kind of just numbers, and it needs a little more character before I consider it completed. But it's really on a good solid foundation as far as like the way the game works. And so I've got an idea for where all that's going. And I conceptually have, like, the Compass of Autochthonia, or the Exalted the Alchemicals is what this is all bedrocked in, ultimately. But Exalted the Alchemicals, the setting doesn't come from just one monster that turns into terrain. It comes from a bunch of characters that turn into cities, eventually. They go from person to vehicle to city. So that's the power progression. They get bigger and clunkier and less mobile as they become more powerful. So that's a really interesting thing conceptually. Design-wise, Exalted never did anything with it. To the best of my knowledge, there just aren't vehicle-level charms. There aren't city-level charms. They don't exist. Maybe there was some in the Compass of Celestial Directions Autochthonia. It's been a while since I reread that text. But I know that Exalted struggled a lot when it came to setting design because it didn't know how to do stuff like hex crawls. It didn't know how to make content like, say, D&D does. And so it really struggled whenever it came time to get to that level of power where you were the content. And my game isn't going to struggle there. I'm designing this hex crawl largely so that when we get there, I know the general shape of what that should look like, so I know where I can diverge from it in a fruitful way, and where I would just be destructive towards the concept in a way that would make it harder for GMs to run. So that's the news, is that I've got someone else actually helping me on Acid and Steel, and they're helping me a lot. You can tell I'm excited about it. I'm thinking about it now. So that's the next part. That's where we're going next. But in the very short term, you have VTT stuff for Foundry. It does require an older version of Foundry to work because it goes through what's called Sandbox. And there's a dice roller based on ORE, the one roll engine, which is the granddaddy of these kind of systems, by the way, the roll and keep with D10s. So there are very specific instructions. Please just follow each step, and you should get to a perfectly functional Foundry version of Lone Wolf Fist. And you also now have enough of a hex crawl. It's only 23 hexes, but it's 23 pretty dense hexes, and the capacity to increase their depth significantly. So you now have enough that you can kind of see what this hex crawl is going to look like and feel like. So that's, you can start your own hex crawl campaign if you really want to with the resources that I just handed to you. Should you? I think so. And if you do, make sure to tell us about it in the Fistiverse. I'm trying to put links to the Discord everywhere. Crow about it. It feels like we're expanding suddenly, and we're getting more people, and we're getting more enthusiasm. So, yeah, it's a good time to expand. Hopefully we'll have a solid enough foundation of people that are playing the game regularly that we can actually do Kickstarters and have a reasonable chance of consistently releasing products again. So I'm excited about this. There's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pike. By the way, I initially misgendered Poor Taylor in the original version of this, and I have since removed all references to gender aside from this little addendum. So I wanted you to know that it is important to me to get my friends' preferences correct. I don't know if that makes me more or less of a chud in anyone's estimation, but I just wanted you to know it was the honest thing I actually feel. Anyway, I really should have done this in OBS, I'm realizing, because OBS, like, the original version of this video, I was showing you this wonderful hex mapping, so you have this great stuff to look at, and in this version, I got too excited about what I was saying, and so I've just got this this empty echoing hallway of Joel's here. So from the empty echoing hallway of Joel's, this is Joel and his infinitely regressive fractal self signing off. Farewell.